down here so I do not blow you out of the... All right. A little slow here. In my pocket. All right. I'm sure most of you have not a clue as to when you became followers of Jesus. You can think back on the early years of your living. You can think of different times and occasions. You can remember maybe the date when you were baptized, but you can't always remember when you were and became a person of faith. I know there are certain times and occasions when it just becomes evident when somebody else points it out. Whenever somebody gets married, that's a sign of faith. It's a sign of faith that there is a future and that the world has a future, and that because of that possibility, there is where there was no family, the creation of a new family. When a baby's born, all of a sudden, faith in the future gets stirred up because you're wondering, how is it going to work out? What is kind of life and world is my child going to grow up into? What kind of kid do I want to have? What do I want her values and skills to be, and how can I direct her that way? So faith shows up at unexpected moments. And part of what Jesus was doing in the gospel reading this morning with his disciples was simply asking them, who is it that you think that I am? First of all, he did it more indirectly by engaging in what they had heard via the gossip train. What do people say about him? You know, people were curious about him. And in the course of his life, at least, he was titled, besides a bad egg, he was also titled maybe your John the Baptist reincarnated, Jeremiah, or Elijah. And by the way, Elijah was the one who was going to be coming back just before the end of time. In the apocalyptic thinking of that day. Now for Jesus, what he simply said after that was, well, you know, here's the big question. Who do you say that I am? And that is a question that's addressed to everybody in all times and places, and is addressed to you and me today. Who do you say that Jesus is? You'll note that at the end of that question, Jesus says sternly to the disciples, don't talk. Right? Button it up. And the reason he said that was because he was giving a blessing. Now in the Bible, the word blessing means you have your head wrapped around the idea, you have an understanding of it, you have lived it, and you're comfortable with yourself in your own skin. So you're blessed when you're comfortable in your own skin, and comfortable with your understanding of God and Jesus, the Son of God. And that was the blessing that Jesus gave to Peter and the disciples that day, and also told them, shut up, button it up. You're not ready to talk out loud yet. And that's not at all unusual for any of us, and that is our calling too. Oftentimes in conversation about faith, sometimes we try to stretch a little too far over. I know there's lots of times people will ask me or observe that we're in the midst of the end of time. It's coming and it's coming quickly. And I always just stare at you when somebody says that, and usually don't say anything. Today I will say, no, that is not true. We are not looking at the signs of the end of time. And if you would just get out a history book and look at any piece of history, you will see that the levels of violence, the levels of killing, the levels of economic injustice and inequity have been present throughout history. And it has been people of faith in Jesus who have addressed those as peacemakers, peacekeepers, as people who invite people to blessedness. You'll notice, I hope, I certainly have, most of you in a sick kind of way, you'll notice that Ferguson hasn't been on TV quite as much. And you know why it is that peace has come to Ferguson? Because the Christian churches and pastors in Ferguson and people of goodwill got out onto the street and became peacemakers and peacekeepers in a way that people understood. Because most people want to live blessed lives and lives of peace. And that is why Jesus told the disciples to be quiet, because they weren't ready yet to wrap their heads around the feeling of their true calling. And yet that's what we see. Only a little bit now on TV, because it's not a little, that's not great. And that's my fun. But we know that the people of goodwill and people of faith are actively busy, and God is present there, underneath, as always, in masks. And it is your faith that is going to see His presence by the work of the ministrations that we're going to. You know, think about your own life, the times and occasions in your own life when you have been called to care for other people, to be compassionate, to be generous with your life, to be a teacher. I was visiting somebody at their house last week, and they have sort of a false ceiling outside in their porch. It's aluminum. And I just happened to catch a glance, looked up, and there were claw marks, and part of the aluminum was collapsed. You know, my first thought is, you know, I'm a little insurance will have the kids. Oh my God, that must have been a little dinosaur that got out there and got in there. Or a snake with claws. You know what it could be? And as I was talking to the people I was visiting, they didn't know. One of my kids left the garage door open. The cat who lives in the neighborhood managed to get up the tools and up the garbage bags and up in there, and absolutely freaked out because the aluminum was so slick, couldn't grab hold, so it clawed in, and collapsed a little part of the aluminum there. And I said, well, what'd you do? Well, I left the garage door open the big garage door, and the cat finally got out and jumped down and went out. I said, so you didn't kill the cat? He said, no, what did I kill the cat for? The cat got lost and didn't know what it was doing. Besides, I like seeing the cat. It's not a pet, but I like seeing the cat. It's part of our neighborhood. I thought that was pretty good. Do you consider that ministry? Oh yeah, big time. Because it reveals a state of mind, a state of hopefulness, a state of affirmation of living of all things. And that's what those folks were saying and doing. When did you catch faith? Oh, you probably don't know. I can't exactly remember. I couldn't give you a date. I've always had faith. That's all I know. I couldn't tell you a time I didn't. What I do know, and what's important for all of us about our faith, is to speak to people what you know. Don't conjecture and make up what you don't. Don't say strongly with your body language, I believe this, when in fact, deep in your heart, you're not sure what it is. It's because people will know you're wrong. And then their faith will be troubled. You have the keys to people's hearts and lives. And I don't know about you, but I have keys coming out my ears. Just like most of you, and I have not a clue what they do anymore. I think I have keys to an apartment that I had maybe when I was 19 or 20. I have it. Well, you never know. They might need it. The landlord might need it. I have keys to cars. And I've had a lot of cars, but I haven't. You just never know when somebody might call and say they need a key to that car. And maybe I keep that key ring just for some. Pardon me, part of my history. In any case, when Jesus said you have keys to bind and loose, he was talking about all the keys of your personality and faith which are present with you all the time. And you have the keys to unlock your faith. The trick is to home. They got to hug the ant. Hug the ant. Just hug the ant. Let the ant know you love her even though she's a pain. Still love her. Because she still loves you even though she'll always be with her. That's okay.